Um, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever the time that you are watching this recording at. So I go by the name John, and the next few minutes we are going to discuss about introduction to SOC. So I hope everyone is ready and eager to learn something around this field or area. So to start off, SOC is a security operation center. So think of it from a centralized point of view where we can be able to create a visibility of the events that are happening within our network and ICT infrastructure. So take a scenario of a vehicle where there's a dashboard. So the moment you power on your vehicle, it is supposed to show you where the problem, if there's a problem, it's supposed to show you where the problem is. If there's an issue with the brakes, if there's an issue with the engine, if there's an issue with one of the components that will hinder the vehicle from moving, there's a dashboard that is supposed to give you an alert. They are called dashboard lights, an alert to show you, hey, there's something that is wrong, and then you should make a point of making sure now to inspect exactly what could be wrong with the vehicle. So just the same scenario now when it comes to security and IT infrastructure, we have a department which plays defensive, trying to defend the system that we are guarding against security threats and security incidences. So in this section, we try to monitor security issues, connections that are coming through, events that are being generated by all the endpoints that are connected within the infrastructure. Sometimes it could be all of them. Other times we could sample some of them. And then we try to monitor because you might find an organization is running a lot of endpoints, and these are we only need maybe we only need to monitor a few of them, maybe like core ones, like servers and maybe network devices. And then we leave maybe some few endpoints like end user machines that maybe are not always running some critical services. So that is about SOC. So the next thing is, what is now the purpose of SOC? So the purpose of now having SOC is to make sure that we detect vulnerabilities within the environment that we are in. So is there a weakness somewhere? Is there a vulnerability that needs to be fixed and it can be exploited by threat actors to cause a cyber attack or to cause a breach within the network? SOC teams will make sure that they have proper resources to be able to detect this. The second issue is policy violations. An organization can craft policies to enable them adhere to maybe certain standards. So SOC will make sure that as we'll be able to see this through a demo on how SOC tools can be used to make sure that we are compliant to some of the policies. Some of the policies. So one of the things is around GDPR. Make sure that we are compliant to data protection. GDPR for Europe. Another maybe policy we can have to customize our SOC to make sure that we are compliant to maybe some of the issues around maybe data protection issues in Kenya, things like passwords, things like how many times a user can be allowed to log in. The third thing is using the SOC tools to detect unauthorized activities. So in this case, we might have predefined set of activities or some activities that the tools deem them to be abnormal activities or indicators of attacks or maybe indicators of compromise. So when we are using SOC tools, some of these tools can have the capability to be able to detect such activities and give an alert or show on the dashboard that certain activities that might be of risk to the environment are actually being run through the network. And then the fourth thing is to be able to detect anomalies. Certain times we might find that we are doing monitoring for systems, servers, network devices, and all of that that is connected to the infrastructure that we are trying to make sure that it is safe. So detecting anomalies, at some point we could see spike in traffic. So now, where there's a spike in traffic, it could indicate that a lot of users are actually legitimately accessing the services. Sometimes it could indicate maybe an attack, and the threat actors are actually trying to transact huge amount of data. And other times it could even be distributed or maybe denial of services to the denial of services to the legitimate users, and the systems are actually being overwhelmed. So these tools are able to detect such anomalies and be able to analyze and help us to be able to uh, actually investigate and mitigate such issues before they shut down our system or they make our systems unavailable in the network or to the legitimate users. So those are some of the four the four why the purpose why that we need SOC in monitoring. Then the other thing that I'm going to touch is now maybe the structure. So the structure of SOC, I can define it in three ways, where we can say we need people, and then processes, and also technology. So where we need people now, these are the resources and the analysts that are going to be monitoring, using the tools to monitor for security incidences within the network or within the data center or wherever the IT environment is. So this is from the junior analyst to the senior analyst, the ones that are going to monitor. The roles keep on going high, where we have the junior analyst monitoring for any incidences, and then if there is a serious thing that is happening within the environment now, it is escalated to higher levels for investigation to validate what exactly is it, where is the source, and what is happening. And then from there, if it is a security incident, then it can be mitigated, or they can find a way on how to find out what exactly has happened and how do they mitigate that and return services to normal. And then now, the senior people or the senior analyst, where we are going to have now people who can actually be able to investigate and find out exactly what, why, and answer the question of 5 Ws on exactly the particular incident, and maybe come up with a report and maybe lessons that are learned from such an incident, and ways to make sure that such a thing doesn't happen in future. Then we also have process. So the process seeks to answer the 5 W question. Um, by looking at the alerts that have been generated within the network. So let's say, for example, we are just monitoring for a bank infrastructure, and then all of a sudden we see a user was logged into the core banking system, or a very critical system that is supposed maybe to authorize transactions to a particular account or maybe to accounts. And normally, this account or maybe this user can only log in. Previously, they've been logging in during the normal working hours, but in this, they've logged in during very suspicious hours. So we will seek to answer the question of 5 Ws. What, when, why, and why is this thing happening? And then we try to escalate this thing. If it's an urgent transaction that needs to be made, we'll seek to validate whether it's actually true. If it's an attack now, we'll seek to make sure that we've prevented that from happening. And then the last set of we can look is in the SOC structure is technology. So technology is where we are going to combine multiple tools to make sure that we maintain high level of monitoring and we are able to capture everything that is happening within the environment. So such tools are tools like SIM security, uh, information and event monitoring. We also have EDR, endpoint detection and response, and we also have firewall. And we also have SOAR, SOAR that it's an advancement of SIM that can be used to orchestrate or respond to incidences automatically without the intervention of human factor. Sometimes can use predefined rules where we can set rules to say if a certain condition is met, then execute these. Other times it could be AI, artificial intelligence, where tools can be trained and integrated to make sure that they monitor for anomalies, and if a certain anomaly is detected within the network, then the tools can trigger can trigger certain procedures to make sure that the attack is mitigated. So these tools work hand in hand. For instance, you might find SIM tools are receiving logs from servers, but at the same time, firewalls are still there monitoring the endpoint and also EDR, endpoint detection and response. They are also monitoring the endpoints and they are forwarding logs to the server. This is to make sure that we are collecting everything comprehensively, and also we reduce the amount of event, the number of events that we are getting into into the SIM tool, and we also reduce the positives. False positives is a scenario whereby we are monitoring for environment against security incidents, but we are getting so many alerts. Some of them could be true, others could be could be false. So how do we get to ensure that all the alerts that we are getting, at least we've minimized the rate at which you are getting false positives, and also make the work of the analyst easier. So the team will work to make sure that they've minimized, we may not really minimize them 100%, but we can minimize them to the at least to the highest level possible. And whatever we are getting is something that we can be able to handle at a given time rather than getting like a thousand events, because for instance of where organizations might be having larger IT infrastructure like banks or maybe telecommunication companies, you might find maybe we have like two analysts at a go, and they are monitoring so many systems that are interconnected. And sometimes it could be even systems that are crossing multiple countries. So in such a scenario, and you are getting false positives, it could be a lot of work to handle. It's called alert fatigue, where you are receiving too much to handle to a point that you not be able to deliver effectively. So the analyst try as much as possible to make sure that they've fine-tuned the rules, or they have proper configurations within the environment to ensure that alert fatigue is minimized. Yeah. So, having said that, and I know that we will have a call to make sure that we respond to some of the questions. This was just a basic introduction to SOC, Security Operations Center, where we interact a lot with a SIM tool. Some of them are commercial, others might be open source to make sure that we guard the infrastructure and we guard our information and data. I will show a demonstration of one of the tool called Wazoo, which is an open source. And I think it's good if some of the members can actually go ahead to try it out there because it is free. They do have their own cloud that will give you 14 days trial, and also you can also download it on your own local PC in various ways. You can download an image for virtual machine or VMware. You can also download you can also deploy it on a Docker image, on Docker environment locally on your PC. And also you can deploy it on AWS. So there are quite multiple ways, but for the purposes of me trying to make sure that you've saved resources on your machine, you can try the ones that are publicly, not publicly, but the ones that are hosted on maybe on the Wazoo cloud, or maybe the one that is hosted hosted on AWS. There's a predefined image that is available for AWS. So in case anyone has a challenge or question to this, they can always get in touch with the organizer for this bootcamp, and we'll see how we can schedule time and maybe learn one or two things around this area. So Wazoo is an open source, as I had said before, that can be customized. There are quite some number of companies that are using Wazoo, including banks, insurance companies, telecommunication, to make sure that they effectively monitor for security incidences within the environment. There are quite some other tools like Splunk. There's a Azure Sentinel that is used to monitor Azure components or uh, tools, not tools, but applications and also systems that are deployed on Azure Cloud. There's also a logarithm that is also being used a lot, yeah, across some companies in Africa. So, but again, the facts that we are trying to learn, it means we do not have access to some of those commercial tools, but there's one open source tool that we can be able to test and have an experience on how it feels like, what it takes to monitor for security events. So uh, for you to get Wazoo on the cloud, if you want to get it on their own cloud, you might need a corporate email. That is, if you are a student, or if you have an email that is not maybe the common one like Gmail, Microsoft, or Yahoo, or those public emails. You may not, if you have that email, such an email, you may not be able to get the instance. But if, for example, you are a student and you have that email that says .ac.ke for Kenyan, or maybe .sc.tz for Tanzanians, or any other country, the way the school emails are structured, you'll be able to get the instance and you will be able to have it for the next 14 days. For those that are going to use AWS, if you create the free account on AWS Cloud, you will be able to have $100, which you can use for the next 14 days to learn. So you can monitor for your machine, you can monitor for the machine of your friend. There are quite some resources on either GitHub, YouTube, and so many write-ups on how we can implement some of the alerts, or maybe how we can fine tune Wazoo to detect a certain specific issue. And if anyone gets stuck again, feel free to speak, and also get in touch with the organizers, that if any assistance is needed, then someone can always jump in. So for my case, I have used the Wazoo Cloud that is giving me an instance for 14 days, and monitored an environment that is running on Linux operating system, that is Kali. I let me get this down. So normally it would look like this. I come to Wazoo. You will click on a free cloud trial, and then it will take you to registering. This is something that will not take you for more than 30 minutes to have an environment that is running. And then after you register, you'll be able to create an environment, which after you've created, it will give you some variables. And then when you come on this section, top right, where we have manage, you'll be able to see the default credentials that have been given. And so you in the using this now, you can be able to log into Wazoo. So after you've seen the default credentials, then you will come and click on Open Wazoo, which will spin a new tab and now load in your SIM tool. So let us see how it goes. Um, hmm. Yeah, I've already logged in somewhere. Yeah, I've already logged in somewhere, so there's no need for uh logging in again. So in this section, this is how the dashboard looks like. And we have somewhere at around top left, we have active and disconnected. So when you connect your machine to Wazoo environment, and at some point you shut it down, it will appear as a device that has been disconnected. And when you connect to a machine and it remains connected to the internet, and no interference that has been done to the connection that was made initially to Wazoo, it will remain as an active agent. So this means you are actually able to collect logs on what is happening within that endpoint. Now, the endpoint is the machine that you are monitoring. And where we are viewing from, that is now the Wazoo server. So this means that we are able to view security events and incidences live from the Wazoo server or the Wazoo server dashboard that we have deployed. So it's prompting me to log in. Let me log in. Okay. 2 minutes. So when you click on the active agents, you'll be able to see the details for the machine that has been connected to Wazoo server. And then we'll proceed to click on the device. Once we click on the device, we'll be presented with multiple options that we can be able to navigate through. So for instance, if we click on configuration assessment, we are able to see some of the system audit. So Wazoo, once you have it on your endpoint, it will do an automatic audit. So for organizations that are running critical services like finance or telecommunication services, there are certain standards that they are supposed to adhere to. And so having Wazoo will lessen the burden of every time trying to do manual things. Or when the auditors come, they usually point out some issues that we are not able to fix. So by having Wazoo will help us to make sure that we are compliant to some of the best standards because Wazoo is a well-known tool and it uses some of the best standards like PCI, DSS, NIST framework to make sure that GDPR as well, to make sure that the environment that you are on is compliant to some standards, some best known standards. Then if we look at, if we click on our agent and we navigate towards threat hunting, let's see whether we'll be able to find something. I have deployed this agent a few minutes ago, so it doesn't have so many events. Again, it is not customized, but maybe by the time you're having this call, We can always customize it to maybe a few things, and we try to test it and see whether it actually works or it's just stories that we are giving. So it's something that we can actually be able to do. On Windows, we can try simple tasks like file integrity monitoring, where you can try to see if any file is being monitored, if any file has been created, that's something that can be done a bit easier by someone who's trying things out. On Linux, we can maybe try implement something like brute force detection and maybe automatic response, whereby if someone is trying to brute force our Linux environment, maybe using SSH secure shell, we can maybe detect that automatically and somehow block it from happening, and we get an alert from Wazoo environment. So let me see dashboard. Seems like I don't have anything. Events. Again, I don't have anything. Let me go back home. Um, hmm. We can also try see whether we have any malware within the device that we are monitoring. Seems like it doesn't have any malware, so we can go back home. Um, let's see if there's something that is interesting that we'll be able to find out before the end of the call. You can now try threat hunting. It seems like still there's none. Let me expand my timeline. So when we can be able to see that there are some incidences that have happened, for instance, we have authentication failure that has happened 2 times, and we also have authentication success that has happened 9 times. So it means since the time that we started monitoring, this user has actually logged in into that device like 11 times, of which 9 times they actually logged in successfully. This means that they issued the correct username and correct password. But where we see now authentication failure, it means maybe they missed out the password or they missed out the username. So in such a case, you could try, is it someone who was trying to guess the username, or is it someone who was trying to guess the password? Or it's actually the red actor. So by now trying to investigate at what time were they trying to log in? Um where were they trying to log in from? Maybe what IP are they using, and such kind of scenarios to make sure that we have data at our fingertips, and we can be able to prevent something before it actually happens. Another thing around about SIM tools is there will always be a classification of events that are happening. So if something is of high, it's very critical. This means that this is an issue that can lead to takeover of an entire system or maybe of an entire network. So it will be classified under critical severity, and some of them would be maybe under high severity. But if it's something that is not maybe I just sometimes could be a false positive, but something that needs to be investigated, or something that is abnormal but is not of high criticality, it would be put under maybe medium, and some of them would go to low severity. So these are some of the frameworks that this tool utilizes. We have PCI DSS for the organizations that are involved in payments or things around card payments. It's a global standard that is applied across all the organizations that are involved in making sure that payment is done maybe to customers or to different entities. Then we also have GDPR, which is a data protection guideline for European countries. We have HIPAA, which is a health guideline for protecting data around health. I mean, our health is very critical, and we would not want anyone to have access to some of the things maybe that we've been treated about. And then we have NIST framework, which is a recognized framework that is applied a lot, especially by industries in making sure that they respond to incidences. And also we also have TSC. So they are quite multiple, but these are some of them that are utilized by Wazoo. And it also has threat intelligence capability, and it can be integrated across multiple platforms like Docker, AWS, Google Cloud, GitHub, Microsoft Office 365, which is also used across multiple corporate organizations. So some of us, maybe some of the mentees that are watching this can go try out and get to experience. And when we now have the walkthrough or the QA, we can see whether we'll be able to have something of the sort that has been fine-tuned a bit, and we'll see what can we be able to achieve by using an open source tool. So that is it. Thank you so much for your time. See you during the QA session. Thank you.